Right then, let's get this started. So, ciao. Okay, right, we're here. Carlo, how you doing?
Great, thank you. Busy as always, but
Busy as
lots of
always.
exciting things going on.
Always exciting things, yeah.
Always.
So it's another week over. It's another thing that's gone by. Another tournaments have ended and tournaments are starting up. Was there any big interesting tournaments that you wanted to talk today about that are kind of coming up soon?
I hate when you ask me these entirely open-ended questions like you think I'm supposed to have an answer, whereas I
I
have
tell you
no
what,
idea what
no,
you're
no, no.
talking about.
I tell you what, you won't know. You won't know what the answer
there
is.
are loads of
No,
really
no, no. It's
interesting
fine.
tournaments.
It's
Which one
fine.
are we
Shut
going to
up.
start with, Mickey?
Just shut
Where
up.
are we starting,
Because
mate?
you clearly don't know what you're doing, but I do know someone who does.
No idea.
George, I believe you know about something that's coming up.
I certainly do, guys. Hello, thank you for having me. Always good to be with you guys here on the tourney ground. And yeah, I've got a big tournament to talk about. If you guys are willing to indulge me with it, as I'll be a disembodied logo with a voice in between your two beautiful faces.
Great to have you, George.
Yeah, definitely.
Guys, I appreciate it.
We'll obviously talk about the team tournament a little bit later on, I think. As we can talk about it throughout, and we can talk about kind of like some of the things that you're going to be working on. But how are you doing? How are you actually doing overall? You've been enjoying tournaments and things?
Me?
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying it. I enjoyed the first Builder League. I came what I think we can all assume is a respectable 34th place.
Yep.
Out of 80, by the way, so top
out of
half.
80, yeah, out of 80. I was happy with this one. This was the first one that I'd finished. Of the three that I've done, this was the first one that I finished in the top half of, and the one that I finished with a positive win rate. So
I assume that's 2 wins, 1 loss. Yeah.
2 wins, 1 loss. Yeah, I got absolutely smashed by the eventual winner in the first week. No doubt contributing to his win gives me a bit of a moral victory because he tabled me the first week.
That's definitely the person that you want to lose to, you know?
Yeah. So my 1 loss came to the eventual overall tournament winner, which is your very own Shalashaska. And then I went up against Free Folk again in the second round, and I managed to win that one. And then I had a very interesting match against Night's Watch in Honed and Ready and managed to take that one as well. Primarily because I got lucky with the objective card coming out on the center objective, giving me the extra point. So I managed to score quite quickly. And yeah, I was really happy with it. I'm not a Stark player, as everyone knows, but I really enjoyed the tournament. I liked getting a chance to play with Starks. And it's interesting to see that one of the, who is it? The 10th position played the same two
commanders.
The same two commanders I did, yeah. Brendan Blackfish, who obviously you did in the commander overview today, and the Great John.
No, yeah, it's great work. I mean, as again, respectable result. I will just briefly. We talked about it briefly last week because my results were already in, I think, by this point. No, they weren't quite. I played my game on Tuesday. I lost all 3 of my games tremendously with my terrible Stannis lists. I built some absolute garbage. I did a load of practice with them, and then I changed them at the last minute, and they were big mistakes. Like including champions of the stag. Don't think they're very good. I'm sorry. I don't think they're not very good for 10 points.
I gotta disagree with you there, man. Maybe 10 points is steep for anything, obviously, but as someone who plays Baratheon as the main faction, I've been really enjoying them. Don't get me wrong, like they've died in every single game that I've had them, but they've tended to do a lot of work while they've been around, other than the last one where they got one-shotted by Bone Lord's Chosen. So
I think that at 10 points, you couldn't cost them any less than 10 points.
I agree.
So they're not bad at 10 points, but the real issue is that if you're going to infield a 10-point unit in any list, in any faction at all, it has to be the very first thing that you add into the list, and the whole rest of the list has to be kind of constructed around making sure that 10-point unit gets enough value out of itself. So it can never be a last-minute decision to chuck them in. So I think that's where things have gone wrong for you there, Mickey.
Definitely, and I think the other big telling thing from it as well is that I actually don't think the Baratheons want something like the Champions of the Stag, because they don't offer what the Baratheons want. You know, you're gonna hold in combat for a long time. They're gonna do a lot of work for you when they're in combat, but they're not a great unit to have stuck in a melee because they don't have any real impressive keywords, except, you know, you could argue crit blow's good, but if you don't roll sixes or the opponent can weaken you, you know, you're onto a
Crit
hiding to
blow,
nothing there.
parry.
I found parry to
and
be really, really good.
2+
really
save.
useful, yeah.
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 I think
a key unit that will, which your opponent will want to keep tied up because they don't want to allow you to charge.
Mhm.
So therefore you become a unit that can focus, having triggering all the effects that require you to begin your activation engaged and stuff like that.
I agree.
They have a place. I think that what's really difficult is Lord of Dragonstone could push them into being far more useful, but now we're talking about an 11-point unit. Like, now we're like off the charts expensive. So it's a tough buy. And, you know, I think that the Baratheons are still struggling and searching around for what their competitive lists should look like. That's my general opinion.
I'm really hoping for some lighter cavalry to come out.
Yeah, I think
because like the champions are great, and they give you a little bit more mobility insofar as they can go, you know, potentially 12 inches in a turn rather than just 8. But like, and you're right, Carlo, they will stick around in combat. They'll do it, the old tar pit units. They'll stick around in that combat for ages. But when you say they're not necessarily what we're looking for, what we are looking for is some lighter cavalry, maybe lance cavalry, but probably not. And these hedge knights, whenever I know they're coming out as neutrals, but if they're decent for what they are, then I could seriously consider having them as a kind of go-to in a list.
Definitely. Interestingly, or like oddly enough, despite how much they are kind of talked about in a negative light, I think that flayed men have a real good place in Baratheons at the moment. Possibly with that Lord of Dragonstone, I would rather take flayed men with a Lord of Dragonstone than take Champions of the Stag. And it's partly because of the fact that they get their on the charge abilities, which your opponent then really wants to keep you in combat. No, you don't have the 2+ save. No, you don't have all those necessarily brilliant keywords, but you are significantly more maneuverable, particularly with the Lord of Dragonstone, for the same cost. And your opponent wants to keep you engaged, and therefore it can become the unit that you play all your triggers off. That will allow you to heal, pass off tokens, whatever it is, you know, hold the line. So yeah, I mean, that's a whole massive segue, but
yeah, definitely. But yeah, so yeah, overall Baratheons did okay. I do think, as you know, as a side point, they did have the 2 lists like we talked about. They did all of the top 3 Baratheon players. Loras being a Renly side, Vargo he ran as a Stannis side. We see Stannis side, obviously Renly side, fairly obvious that one, and Renly side, Stannis side. So I do think that the 2 list format really is how the Baratheons are going to benefit, because the lists can be different and have very different flavors, not just from a commander perspective, but also from a loyalty perspective.
Interesting seeing that the neutral commanders went with the Stannis stuff as well. You know, I mean, obviously the kind of Loras, the Renly side things have to go Renly side, but that it was an interesting choice to go with the neutral commanders and stick with and kind of go with Stannis.
I think that is probably the best play, because it offers different list builds. You know, but interestingly, you know, a lot of these top lists from the Baratheons are running predominantly Warden spam. It's very common in a lot of them. Look, the One True King here, he runs Bastard Girls a little bit more, but there's obviously Wardens and Wardens in there as well, and we see Rose Knights, Wardens, Cutthroats. You know, lots of Cutthroats. Wow, hundreds of Cutthroats.
So the reason why we see those neutrals coming in on the Stannis side really is because neutrals themselves, their most efficient units are generally Boltons, and Boltons already have a strong panic mechanic. The Stannis side can bring some really, really powerful panic-based bonuses, and kind of just generally works on a panic mechanic itself. So those units can synergize well with neutral-based commanders. They synergize well with Roos, synergize well with Ramsey, those kind of things. Not necessarily the best choices and the best synergies, because there are some really strong ones on the Stannis side itself. But when given a neutral commander, it generally leans very well into Stannis. There are some natural synergies there, whereas the Renly side is all in on these kind of healing synergies, and the neutrals don't bring any of them. So you've lost a huge amount of power if you start with a neutral commander and then try and lean back into a Renly side.
Yep.
So I think that the individual pieces in Melisandre and maybe Axel Florent NCU and stuff like that can go very well with neutral-based stuff, whereas Rose Knights don't really benefit from a Roos commander, for example. That doesn't do anything for them.
Moving on from like the top section there, I want to talk a little bit about other factions. We talked about Night's Watch and neutrals not appearing till, I'd argue, joint 13th, actually, if you think of that. They went the 7 and 8. So they won 2 games and got a total of 8 secondary points between those games. But vastly different kill numbers. But you know, if we ignore kill numbers for the matter, although that's inherently part of the game, I know, they did come joint 13th effectively. But even then, like, it's overall not great from those showing, and there's a couple more Night's Watch players who are similar kind of ranks. So we've got Jason Zeri, who's up there. We've got the likes of Red Letter Office and Skiddy66. And, you know, there were quite a few Night's Watch in this middle period, but neutrals, really, Stannis was the only person able to take a neutral list even remotely that far. The Pianist with his was okay, and the next time we're looking at neutrals, they're looking at 2 losses.
Yeah. So don't forget that this was except for a couple of people who dropped out just before the list, there was a completely even split of factions here. Actually, there are more neutrals and Night's Watch than there are Starks. There are, roughly speaking, 11 to 12 of every single faction here, and yet we don't see a single neutral player or a single Night's Watch player make it undefeated into the final round. There are 10 undefeated players, and none of them are neutrals. None of them are Night's Watch, and they both record an overall win rate down at 34-35%.
Yeah.
They've not had a good event at all, and that has led to the Night's Watch specifically massively falling in its ELO value.
Another comment I want to make: Lannister's coming in, the first Lannister player sneaking in at 12th with Viking Tonnin. Significantly, well, 1 win behind anyone in the top compared to the losses, but also behind on secondary points as well, only hitting 9 secondary points. But there are quite a lot of Lannisters in this bracket. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 in quick succession. Basically, kill numbers being the only thing that separates them. Lannisters not getting any 3 winners. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just bad faction matchups, bad scenarios for them? What do you think?
I'm not sure. Their overall win rate isn't too bad. It's 48%. It's not that significantly different to the Baratheons. The Baratheons win 52% of the time and have a ton of people who are undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
The Lannisters win 48% of the time, and they have nobody up in the top 10, nobody unbeaten.
You
could just be some random variance. We're not quite, it's a big tournament. It's got 80 people in, 11 playing each faction, but it could be more a statement of the fact that the Lannisters just generally do okay in everything, and they don't have any. They can't necessarily write lists that do extremely well in game modes the way that the Baratheons can.
Yeah.
There are certain things that they can face up against in certain game modes that they're just like, I can't beat this. I can't beat Starks in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
End of.
Is there an argument to be made that that like maybe certainly in the Baratheon case? I mean, I've played some of these game modes as a Baratheon, and I found that a lot of them reward the bit other than other than the second one, the name of which I forget now, is that no foe shall pass, or
Yep.
no foe may pass. Other than that one, the other two actually quite favoured. I felt like quite favoured Baratheon, or Renly side Baratheon lists at least, and I could see High Sparrow lists for the Lannisters. My little experience I have with the Lannisters, but I could see the High Sparrow lists potentially being really quite good there, just spamming loads of poor fellows and just standing around, gumming the board up a bit.
My second round game, I played against Stannis actually, but it was very much I noticed it from a Baratheon perspective that like if I lost a unit and he had like things like dervishes or cavalry to move through me, basically if I lost a unit, he was going to be able to get to my objectives faster than I could ever respond. Yeah. So you end up having to defend by nature. You have to defend wide because you have to defend both points, but you also kind of need to defend deep. And I found that if you come down on the wrong side of those trades with some factions, you just lose. And I think Lannisters will probably be in the same boat there. If they came down on the wrong side of that boat, that game mode, and they lost that fight, and the line was broken, and there was an option to go through. If an enemy's done that, then actually you score. It's stupid the level of points you score from those objectives every turn if you're with your commander unit. It's 4 points a turn. It's like to some extent, it's so game-breakingly like high scoring from those points compared to anything else on the board that if it happens, the game is basically over unless you can react to it now.
Do we think that will get maybe pared down a bit once the game mode comes out of beta? Because I think you're right. Like it's huge amounts of points. Like I was able to in my game, it ended up being 9-7, I think, and we went all the way through to round 6 as we both played a very slow attritional game. I managed to jump onto the point in the last, just I think in round 5 and score 2 lots of 3, and kind of win the game as on default essentially because I just had more points after the end of round 6. But do we think we'll see those be taken down to maybe 2 points or something? Because then 2 points doesn't seem worth the risk.
I think we will, but so the issue was in specifically in my game is that if your commander's in a quick unit, and I'm thinking Davos here would be a good example. If Davos can push through the line, he's quick unit, he's going to push in. Davos Dervish is 7 movement. Targaryens with the likes of Grey Worm or Barristan in those units, or even Khal Drogo in the Dothraki veterans, if they can push through, and these are Alpha Strike units which are designed to push through, if they do, Stark Berserkers, I wouldn't want to hesitate about Stark Berserkers with Robin or Stark Berserkers with some of the other commanders in. They push through that unit, they get a point for killing the unit, and then score 4 points at the end of the turn. That's a 5-point game swing from losing 1 unit. And actually, in terms of control, how much control do you have of that? Realistically, it's not that much. So, and I think that's the big difference. I think it's very swingy from that perspective, whereas other games are relatively slow scoring, but you can see how you're given opportunities in some ways to counter that. Whereas with this, it's all or nothing pretty much straight away. And if you lose that all or nothing...
Interestingly for me, it was the case that the one that was the highest scoring was the one that went to time. It went all the way through all 6 turns because I think both of us, it was Free Folk versus I was playing my Great John list, which was far more aggressive than my Brynden list was. And actually, in retrospect, the Brynden list, I should have taken the Great John list in my first game mode and the Brynden list in my second. And luckily, obviously, I pulled the win off in the second round, but that was the one that went to time because I was just mincing Free Folk. But because they can come up the board so well, as especially Mickey, as you know, it was difficult to get round them. And I eventually managed to kind of pull off. I managed to pull off a retreat. I kind of charged in with some outriders, then managed to pull off a cheeky retreat back out. And that's what got me onto the objective at the time. And my opponent in the very final round, I went first, so I've been stung by Endless Horde so many times. I was like, right, I'm going first, I'm taking the horses. You can't have... If you want to come onto the board, that's fine, but you're not going to be able to do anything. So that was the one. Interestingly, the one with the highest scoring opportunities was the one that went the longest. Like my other two were... I was tabled by turn 4 in the first round and won on victory points by turn 4 in the third one, so...
So I mean, the interesting thing here though is, and I think this is relevant, is you're talking about like fighting free folk on that kind of game mode, and although it could be high scoring, your simple fact of the matter is you're never going to get through to score points until you do. So it might have taken a long time, but that's the nature of the faction. Do I think the scenarios need changing after we've played them? I think Honed and Ready, the last one, I think is very well balanced. And hopefully it'll be better now, by the way. Carl, let me know. I do think Honed and Ready will be one that I can see coming out, because it offers something that a lot of other scenarios don't offer, which is a control-based scenario that favors movement but actually punishes you. I do think the punishment needs to be bigger. I would like to see it, and this sounds ridiculous, I know. I'd like to see it to be auto wounds.
The castle walls in Honed and Ready.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting take on it. I that was by far my favorite of the lot of them. That was the one that I was really looking forward to playing, and I've played it a few times subsequently, and I really, really, really enjoy it. I don't know that I'd put it to auto wounds.
I wouldn't make it D3 plus 2.
Fewer of them.
Yeah, I'd probably make it D3. The D3 plus 2 would be unbalanced. But as it currently stands, the wolf issue, if you like, if we call it that, if it is a problem, the units that have high armor like wolves don't care. Solos that have high armor don't care. Giants don't care. And in some ways it powers these units up to be better than they probably are, especially with giants, because when they charge they've got 6 health worth of wounds as well. So they contest the objective that you're on with 6 ranks.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's gonna be sorry about giving giants a little bit of a buff, though. We don't really see them in much competitive play. So really, what you're talking about is those low health solos. Really, is what?
Yeah, but it's not just that, but the high armor lists. The high armor lists, like. Yeah, you can roll poorly on your armor saves, but realistically, you just stick most people would call a commander bunker unit, which, to be fair, are quite cheap in some of these factions. Wardens, guardsmen, although you probably want to take 6 points. Guardsmen, blackguard for 6 as well. All of these things, you plonk them on the objective, and you go, there you go. It's 3 ranks on the objective.
There's an
the hits are irrelevant almost.
There's an argument to be made, though, that actually one way of changing it would be have the shots from the wall, and this would make it more kind of thematic, realistic as well, to have the shots from the walls hit flank or rear, depending on which way you're facing. Because if, like, from what I understand it, you're outside those castle walls, you're holding the objective, the castle walls are an enemy castle shooting at you, right? So actually your positioning should or could matter.
Yeah, I agree.
In that case, would then leave you open. If you want to be facing the castle wall to restrict that, you're leaving the rear or the flank open to the battlefield.
Yeah.
Just strangely enough, we both have castles in this region somehow.
We
both have castles within archer range, so we're gonna take a little bit of a step out of realism. Unfortunately.
But you take my point, right? Is that would be one where rather than it being auto wounds, it opens up an additional dimension of, well, what am I more worried about, the castle walls or potentially getting charged from the other side? Because at the moment,
completely agree. It does have a slight difficulty in terms of like where you'd have to define where the shots come from and those kind of things. So there are stages of making it more complex, but it does feel like if I've got a 3+ save, I just don't care. I just don't care. Like it doesn't do anything. I don't have to take a morale test, right? I don't have to do all these things. So like the damage is so minimal that I'm probably just going to take one guy off the board, which doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I just stuck my sworn shields on either side, and I was like, well, then nothing. If you want to come at them, they're going to be facing you in the front. They're going to hopefully get set for charge. They're certainly going to have shield wall, and I don't care. I don't care about how many hits I take. I think I lost maybe 3 models across the whole game mode to the castle walls.
The funny thing
you can just do your shots sundering if you care about armor so much.
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head, they could
roll less, like have fewer hits, but be able to add a keyword onto them.
Perhaps. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if it was a misplay and what I saw people doing was perhaps not right or whatever. I don't know, but I saw like it's specifically in the game I streamed last night with a free folk mirror. There was a unit that was sat on 2 wounds left, and the opponent he actually scored in the end of the round and he didn't take many hits and then saved a couple, so he ended up not dying. But the opponent didn't even take a zone to replace it with a shot, which was like a very good chance of killing the unit.
Yeah, I never did that. I never did that and never had an opponent do it. None in the 3 times I've played it, I've never replaced the zone for those shots.
And if if you're
which tells you that they're not doing enough.
Exactly, there
exactly.
needs to be a change there.
Anyway, so yeah, honed and ready. I think most people do have enjoyed it. Maybe it's a couple of tweaks, but it's generally a good game mode. No foe pass. Generally speaking, the issue is that it's just too maneuverability heavy, which we've already seen in other game modes. And then the scoring is also ridiculously high as well, which is not, again, relatively useful. So that would probably need quite a bit more tweaking in terms of scoring or how the points work in general. And the first one, which was the rugby style one, wasn't it?
On an open field.
On open field. I quite like that. I think that is a very interesting game mode because you don't get a lot. It's the same kind of thing as No Foe May Pass, but you don't get an exceedingly large amount of points from scoring. It's only 3 if you hold it with your commander. I think that is a much, much better system, and the scoring rate, you can do more with it as well because there's not defined points. It still suffers from the same kind of things, but you have to take the token. It's not just a simple case of getting the unit to the objective, the other side of the board. There are tokens you can control, so a unit that doesn't have width can still control the tokens effectively to stop the on-pour coming through. So I think I do like that one a lot. The game can end quickly though, yeah, because it is a lot of points over multiple turns. So yeah, I think the three game modes in general are pretty good. But as I said, for beta game modes and
the response so far has been quite good. Yeah. I mean, so I put out a feedback form. About a quarter of people answered it so far. Hopefully, we'll get more. So if you're in the tournament, answer the feedback form. It'd be really great. They all score pretty well in terms of people's enjoyment of the game mode and people's self-consideration of what the faction balance is or the competitive balance of the game mode. They all score pretty good. So unfortunately, I don't actually have normal game modes yet to compare them to as to what people score. So I can't tell you that people think that they're more or less, but by comparison to each other, they all do pretty well.
Yeah. All right then. So we've talked about First Builder League. I think we should move on to the next one, which was it. Winter is Coming. We talked about it last time, didn't we? Which is the next one we've got to talk about.
Are we talking about things that are finished? Or...
Finished for the moment. We're going to move on to new things in a bit. But the Battle of Longbridge.
The only other thing that's finished is the Battle of Longbridge, a very small 5-person tournament.
Some names on here that I've seen. In fact, I recognise all of those names. I think I've played against
some very common
most
names
of them.
from down in Australia. They are playing in person. Good stuff.
Brilliant.
Good stuff.
All from Western Warriors.
No, not too many of them. I don't know if they normally have a bigger crowd or if they're still kind of recovering from COVID. But yes, there are. It's a bit of an odd tournament. 5 is a terrible number for Swiss Draw, unfortunately. It means that over 3 rounds, 3 of the 5 players will be given a bye. That's more than half of the tournament will get a bye. By the CMON document, that is a crushing win to each of those players, and the winner of the event actually got a bye in the last round and won off of his bye. So it's difficult. It's difficult because it's 5 players who are all incredibly well matched. They play each other regularly. If they could just get to 6, everything would be solved. Interesting. They are very competitive players, fielding some very good lists, and we see a stark winner on a slight technicality. We could definitely have seen a Lannister winner,
but even then, Scott Norwood was only 3. He was only 3 UDs behind as well.
So we see Stark Lannister Free Folk as these 5 players. They are allowing Kickstarter exclusives.
Yep.
So the Lannisters are doing well. Lannisters are competing with Starks because they have the Kickstarter exclusives. We see the mountain that rides in these lists. And actually, surprisingly, almost unsurprisingly, Free Folk come bottom of that pile. I think as soon as you take the Kickstarter exclusives away, the Free Folk jump up. But that is what it is. The Hall of Champions in general, with that result, not all the tournaments are the same size, but they are filling up with Starks and Free Folk. The only things that aren't won by Starks and Free Folk are Assault on River Run, which is a big event but includes Kickstarter exclusives. Therefore, we see Lannisters do well. And then the other two are two early tournaments, which are very low numbers of entries. We've got an 8-player tournament and a 10-person tournament, where obviously individual player skill can override kind of the weight of factional advantage. But outside of them, we've only ever recorded roughly equal numbers of Free Folk winners and Stark winners.
Yep. Yeah, it's. I think it says a lot. I think the factions are good. We obviously will talk about average placements of factions later down the line when we pass more data, when we actually can start looking at average placements a lot more in a better light. Because at the moment we've obviously still got a lot of new information to go through. But yeah, so that is kind of like where the tournaments stand at the moment. We've got a couple of other ones coming up.
They keep popping up.
Gold on Dice starts this weekend, which I believe the lists have been revealed for. Shall we have a quick look at those quickly?
Let's have a look at
So I actually pulled out of this one just the other day because I've envisaged just how busy the team tournament's going to keep me. But I'm regretting it already.
I was just looking before, and I was like, I'm sure George was part of this tournament.
Yeah,
I was going to ask him about it, and then I looked for your lists, and you weren't there anymore.
Yeah, I do regret it a little bit, but obviously, like, with what we're going to be talking about in a bit is going to be keeping me particularly busy.
At the moment, there is an absolute rush of TTS tournaments, which is brilliant. It's absolutely great, but there maybe needs to be a little bit more coordination going forward and stuff like that. There was even a tournament that popped up at the same time as your own, and then decided to cancel because they realized how much it clashed with the team tournament. So,
I'm sorry to whoever that was.
Oh no, absolutely. Like,
was that the 300-person event?
Yeah, 300-person round robin league. I think it even claimed to be at some point.
It was going to be 17 weeks long or something.
Yeah,
I think I saw that, and I was like, I can't commit to anything for 17 weeks.
Yeah, people have great ideas, and everybody wants to run something, do something, and that's absolutely brilliant. But there are only so many hours in the day for TTS. Whereas, obviously, with physical events, everybody will go to whatever they can in their local area. But when you take that out of the mix, then it just becomes a bit of a free for all in terms of like what people are proposing and what can be successful. But anyway, Gold on Dice is, thanks to its great publicity and its big prize pool and no entry fee, is shaping up to be an incredibly high level competitive tournament.
I really wish him luck with it. I kind of, like, as soon as I pulled out, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I regretted it, but overall, I think it was the right decision. But I think it looks like a really, really good one. I think the competition level is going to be very high in that one.
Yeah, I think the guys. Basically, it's physically being run out of Malta, but it is also allowing people who are not in Malta to play via TTS. So it is a mix of both. And we see Kickstarter exclusives allowed. We see unreleased new miniatures, spoilt miniatures being allowed, and we see a ton of Lannister entries and a ton of Baratheon entries. So it's quite an interesting pool of players.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll see where this one goes, and we'll see some of the lists as things go about. But it's interesting to see Lannister High Sparrow is the most picked commander overall. I think nearly every single Lannister player picked High Sparrow. No, one Lannister player didn't pick High Sparrow as one of their lists, which is insane.
Sparrow.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, Yeah, I think it's going to be
Mm.
interesting. I think it's going to be a good one to
There's
watch.
some really big names. There's some really big names. A lot of Germans have entered the tournament. We
Crowd
see,
popular Rager.
yeah,
he's here today.
we see Larks bring his same Howland Brinden kind of combo that he did well with in the NRG event. We see Psychopath running the Free Folk that he has turned up to some big events with. Did well in Masters of Westeros, the Paris tournament before life got crazy. Who else we got? Euron's a big
He's a good guy in the Discord, yeah.
Discord name.
Definitely.
And we see the ever-present Deoxys 2500 running Free Folk this time.
Absolute
I'm a big fan of Deoxys 2500, not just because he submits tons of results to the site, but because he plays every faction. There is not a faction that Deoxys won't take on and play at a competitive level. So I really have a lot of time for thinking that he is probably one of the most experienced and best players in the world. Speaking of which, the number 1 ranked player in the world is Gushasher, is also in there with his
Starks.
double 10 activation Howland Rob, basically the same list doubled over one time with a NCU commander, one time with an on-field commander. It's the list that I got absolutely crushed by in the Australian event, so
he's
we'll see
changed it
whether
up
or
a
not
bit.
he can keep winning with that, because it currently has him as the top ranked player in the world.
He has changed that list up a little bit. He hasn't got the same kind of.
Has he?
He's gone for Start Sworn Swords with Mira and Start Sworn Swords with Rickon in his second list. But he's still got the Stark Outriders and the Berserkers.
Really mixing it up.
Really huge change.
Hashtag Stark stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just hope he doesn't meet an Axel Florent NCU. Ooh.
I really hope he does.
That would be a shame, wouldn't it?
I really hope he
would be a shame.
I really hope he meets. There you go. I really hope he meets Crag in round 1 with his Roos Axel Florent Melisandre list, and he just goes
Brutal.
zap,
Oh.
zap, zap. You've
Hey.
lost.
Hey, there we go. Everything's got a counter. Everything's got a counter.
Everything does. So that's
why I like it. That's why I like Deoxys so much, because he seems to be able to play anything and its counter and a middle ground and an all comers list and do well with all of them. So,
and he watches a lot of our content.
Well,
he's a lad.
That always helps.
Deoxys is the real hero here. Right, so we've got some physical tournaments. So I'll just give him a quick shout out. Laughter is Poison to Fear is obviously the Gen Con replacement style thing that Brett is running over in Indy. It's written there. And
Family Time Game.
Yeah, Family Time Games in Indy. They're doing a post-tournament chat type thingy thing, like a live streamy.
I think it's pre-tournament. I think it's pre-tournament.
It's a pre-tournament,
unless I got my dates wrong.
Post spoilers, they think. Spoilers, pre-tournament. I think. Not sure.
Yeah, pre-tournament with the people turning up at the tournament. I think it's physical. I don't know. I think it's a physical get-together on the night before the tournament starts.
Yeah. Maritimes Random Army Tournament, which was again, I had to look this up. The Maritimes is a place off Eastern Canada, so it's kind of like I don't know the Canadian states at all. I do apologise, but it's what would be basically connected to Greenland if it was connected.
I
areas.
think it's Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. I think.
Yeah, that area. Yeah, it's around the lakes.
I'm glad when you confirmed it last week though, because I had no idea what the Maritimes were.
Maritimes. Probably.
Greg says that if we'd made the flight over to Indy, he would have made the drive. Well, maybe next year without COVID, we'll see what we can happen. I did actually really hope. I was originally planning to go over to Gen Con, but that all got cancelled, so that's unfortunate.
I think it's this bit. It's like Quebec, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Labrador. I guess Newfoundland and Labrador. I think this is the Maritimes area. If anyone cares. Anyway.
No, I think we just lost half our viewers.
Probably. Oh, there you go. So
Grusselug
knows, because Grusselug, I believe, is Canadian, which is really handy. I don't know why I didn't just ask him first.
I got 2 of the 5. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah. The Oceania Cutthroats. I have no idea what this one is, but I'm guessing
it's Australia.
It is Australia. Oh, we talked about this last week, didn't we?
We're down in Australia again. Yeah,
and it's Midnight, who's a player who's appeared in a couple of the Australian tournaments. That's good.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Midnight's part of Northern Front.
Yeah, I think he's Northern Front. Yeah, runs.
I'm not 100% sure. Are Northern Front connected to Vanguard Strike, or am I just saying you're all from the same country, therefore you probably know each other? I mean, you probably do know.
I mean, Australia is not even that big, right?
No, it's
the size of the UK, right?
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who's driven across a portion of it, it's quite small.
It's those two small islands off the coast of New Zealand, right?
Yeah, those ones. Those tiny little. Anyway, didn't they lose some water emus? Anyway,
Yeah.
We've got Latron de la. I'm gonna butcher this. Latron de la.
Tell three British people are on a chat together, like, whoa,
right.
You're slagging off everywhere.
Latron de la.
You ruled you all at some point.
Yeah, that's true. Through the British, hate them. So this is, I believe this is a physical tournament in Besançon, in France. I would give you all of this amazing information, but we already know that I can't read French, even though I studied it for years, and my French teacher would definitely be disappointed in me because I definitely cheated on my French GCSE, like everyone does. But yeah, so we see Dance of Dragons, Light in the Darkness, and Fire and Blood in 3 scenarios over 3 rounds. So yeah, interesting. See how that one goes out. And then we've got this little kind of rubbishy one here that says 3 Sales Team Super League Season 1. It sounds a little bit like what a bunch of guys in like Power Ranger outfits might say towards the end of an episode, where they're like, 3 Sales Team Super League Season 1, go!
I'll go and get changed then.
So George,
I'm sure you're already wearing Power Rangers outfit.
I was going to say out of that outfit.
All right, we're not having any of that on YouTube. This is family friendly. Right, go on then, George. This is your thing. Is there anything that you want to explain to people? Is there anything you want to explain to me and Carlo? Is there things you want to maybe talk about or say that what's upcoming? Anything you're going to spoil us with? Your general thoughts, ideas, passion?
What's the plan, George?
Yeah, what's happening?
Well, I mean, it's slightly difficult to talk to you two about because obviously you're both on a team yourselves, so I can't give too much away because I have privileged information. Obviously,
it's fine. Carlo's team is rubbish.
Carlo's team featuring Mickey.
Yes.
featuring Carlo. Featuring Carlo playing a faction that he doesn't actually really want to play. So
we have the team chat that we have says me, myself, Carlo, Van from Discord, and Stannis, Thousand Lord Commander, and our Discord chat that we've been having is entirely memes. I think. Yeah, I think entirely memes. I don't think we've said anything serious since we've talked.
Or useful.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's nice to know you're taking my hard work seriously, then.
We really are. We really are.
But yeah, I'm really excited about this. Weirdly, it actually came into my mind last week, like just before you guys were doing the last week's tourney ground. I was going to ask Carlo if there were plans to do something on the site that would allow teams to be represented. And then that kind of sent my brain into a bit of a spiral, and I kind of very quickly came up with the idea of a team tournament would be really, really good. I know other people have spoken about doing it before. How would we make it work? And like, I'm a big sports fan, and I'm a really, really big American football fan. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could do like, teams we can have like a proper league going, and we could do proper coverage of it, make it look like a bit like a sports thing, bring that kind of edge and excitement into it, in addition to being able to play a set of interesting scenarios in a way that's maybe in a competitive setting that's slightly different to the ones that have come before. Because the TCS tournaments we've had so far have been incredible and have been really fun, and I've played a number of them myself. But like, this is something that takes the best bits of those and then does something slightly different with it.
Sure.
And I was when I kind of started speaking to Carlo about it to see if it was something the site could handle, and he said it was. And my plan was actually, I wasn't going to release it for at least another 2 weeks yet. I was going to try and get some stuff sorted out, but I decided to go for it because I thought it might take a while to get people signed up. I wanted 16 teams to start with, and I expected it to take us at least 2 weeks to get there we hit 16 teams in like 26 hours. Which suggests to me the community is excited about it. There was a lot of kind of quick action to try and get teams together to get in, and we've ended up. There was the possibility that I was going to cap it at 27 teams in 3 leagues of 9, but I've ended up capping it at 18 teams in 2 leagues of 9, simply because it's the first time through it. It's going to be a lot of effort for myself and the other people involved. I obviously need to give a huge shout out to obviously a Song of Ice and Fire Stats, but the whole of Song of Ice and Fire guild who are pulling behind this. We got really, really into the idea really quickly, and everyone's helping me out with coverage and videos and graphic design and stuff like that. So huge thank you to the guild for kind of getting behind this, and that gives me some hope for it as well, because this is season 1. This is like the filtering league to get into then the proper skilled leagues. It's something that I want to go on to season 2 and season 3 and potentially a World Cup if it goes as well as it looks like it will. And it's something that, you know, that can outlast me, if that makes sense. Like if with the guild infrastructure behind it, the guild can take it over at some point. It's something that can become like self-perpetuating almost.
It's something that really excites me, actually. As soon as you started asking me about it, I did start to think. My mind went with all the potential of the things that we could build around teams on the site. You know, we could have teams, we could have players sign up to the teams, and you know, the teams can have all sorts of things going on. They can have their logos, they can have their record. The team can get promoted, demoted, all that kind of stuff. As that will help to build like that excitement and community in amongst teams more than it does as an individual. As an individual, on any given day, week, whatever, you don't want to play, then you know that's your business. But when there's a team there, you know you got to pull there for your team. You'll really help your teammates out as much as possible.
And that's exactly what I was going for. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. And I agree, the potential for this is really big, and I'm happy to be the first one to do it. And I'm also really, like I said, I'm really happy that the guild is getting behind it, and I'm really happy that so many players have been interested. I mean, this is going to be the longest tournament so far, because it's 8 weeks, 19 teams per league is 8 weeks. And
I think that's when the team part will really come into play.
Absolutely.
If you've lost some games early in the tournament, we've seen that a lot of people on TTS particularly drop out once they end up in the bottom half. But when you know that you've got to still do your best for the rest of your team, that'll keep people playing, keep people having good games, rather than just thinking, I'm not bothered anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not going to win personally, so why do I care? Whereas as long as your team still needs you to be there, as long as there's still the goal of getting into that upper division as opposed to winning the tournament and all those things, I think that's brilliant, just for like keeping people engaged, and the number of people who've dived in on it and the speed at which it's come on has shown that the community is really, really excited for that kind of event. So
yeah, I really hope so. And it's like the reason I wanted to do the promotions and demotions is, as much as I love American sports, they don't do that kind of stuff. You don't have those, like when if you're a sports fan in the UK or in Europe particularly, or with kind of football, our football, the best stories are your promotion and relegation stories. Those are the things that people get really excited about. And if you're on one of those, it's big enough watching your team try and get promoted or avoid relegation. When you're actually playing that's something different. So the format that we'll have is it's an A and a B leagues. They're equal skill leagues. The teams that we've had, the 18 teams that we've had registered, will be randomly sorted into either of those leagues. I'm going to be doing a proper like World Cup style draw to ascertain the teams, and then those will be drawn in a round robin. Each team will play one other team every week in their own league, with each individual team member playing one other individual team member, except one team from each league each week will play a team from the opposite league. There's going to be like what I'm going to call it, a wild card week.
Very, very American. That's
very, very American.
With their smaller conferences, with the cross-divisional play. Yeah,
yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. Because when I decided on 9 teams a league, it came to the point of, one team a week is going to have a bye, and that feels bad. Like no one wants to not play in an event, and no one wants to score no points for that week, even if it happens to every other team. So I thought, right, well, that's it. Cross play, cross league play. It was one of the things people were asking for was, will the leagues ever play each other? And this way it means that not every team plays the same set of teams, but having that wild card week gives us something a little bit to hype up. It's something good to cross the leagues over. And it will, the result will be that the top 4 teams from both leagues get an automatic promotion to an upper league in season 2, and the best fifth place team gets a promotion up to that league as well. The remaining teams will go into a middle league, and then we will be opening up for a third lower league for brand new teams in season 2 as well. So that will then become 3 leagues of 9, in which case top 3 and bottom 3 will be up for promotion and relegation each time round.
So how about the teams themselves? Have you found that they're kind of geographically based by majority, or is it a bit more? I know our team that Mickey's managed to sign me up for is a bit of a Discord All-Stars kind of just whoever asked first, Mickey said yes. So do you think do you think that it's people playing with people that they know in person, or do you think it's a bit of a mix, or are the teams super international?
It's a mix. That I would say, I mean, I'm looking through my list of teams now. I know that there's some teams that are definitely, as you said, Discord All-Stars. There are some teams that are Discord All-Stars, but still regional. Obviously, from the kind of bigger collections. For example, we have an all-German team. We have an all-French team who are kind of well-known names if you've been following for people who've been following the kind of tournaments so far. And then we've got others who are kind of local play groups or already existing game groups. And then we have groups that have just pulled together. They were searching for people on the Discord server, and people got together and got it out. And it's a really, really good mix, I think. I like the fact that we're doing it as 2 equal skill leagues, rather than this is the highest average TTS rating, and those will go in one league and these will go in another. Because it's going to encourage some really good matchups, and faction-wise as well. I mean, I've had people telling me their preliminary choices for factions, and obviously I'm not going to reveal anything specific about teams because that's kind of privileged training information or whatever.
Definitely.
But it's interesting to note that every faction has been chosen at least twice.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think we're intending to run Renly Charismatic Air 8 times.
That's not even a joke.
If only we
also not even possible.
I know.
Yeah, I know. Have you got a favorite team name?
Have I got a favorite team name? I tell you what, I really like a lot of them. I like the fact that some of them. So if I mean, I don't know about other people, but I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and Final Fantasy X is one of my favorites, and Blitzball is one of my favorite parts of that. And some of these team names sound like Blitzball teams.
Oh yeah.
The Westerosi Warriors sounds like a
incoming jet kick.
Exactly, yeah. The Easterosi Water Dancers sounds like a Blitzball team. But then we've got a lot of the off the wall brawlers. Blitzball team, but then we've got the Bremen Highlanders as well. That's a good one. We've got a lot of themed ones, like A Song of Ice and Fire themed. So we've got the Brotherhood Without Banners. We've got the Rightful Heirs of Westeros. We've got the Knights of Summer. We've got the Lightning Lords.
You still haven't even named my favorite.
Well, and I think my actual favorite. My actual favorite is one that kind of came up as a joke. So Eindras is one of my
Eindras
is one of my Twitch followers, and Eindras is a little bit obsessed with my dog Buddy, 3 Sales Bud. And Eindras was one of the first guys to build a team for the tournament. Has put together actually him and two others of my Twitch followers. And I jokingly said to him that he had to name his team after my dog Buddy, and so we have Buddy Gang. Is one of the teams, so that kind of has to be my favorite, I think.
Yeah. What's your favorite, Carlo? Go on.
I love the Brolaw Faithful.
Yeah, the Brolaw Faithful. That's Chris Tran's team.
Yeah, coming out of a set of players, some players down in Gamers Haven who have some great form on their naming of their names, of their own kind of usernames and channel names. They've hit it out the park again with the Brolaw Faithful for me.
Yeah, 100%. We need to get on with ours, don't we, Carlo?
I mean, ours is technically a placeholder. We're still it's something in and around the Renly theme, but
we should reveal to people that Carlo and Mickey have named their team currently Stats Schmats. So I'm expecting an updated name there. But I've really liked how into it people have gotten. And I asked, you know, like Chris Tran, who we've just mentioned with the Bro Law Faithful from Sunday Slaughter. Chris is helping out with a lot of the design for the early parts and the video editing. And as
then
part
it will
of that,
definitely look cool. It will
yeah, it's
definitely
gonna look
that
incredible.
That
which is
guy
why
knows
I
how to
asked
make
him.
something look cool.
Yeah, that's why I asked him. And one of the things that I wanted to do for that was to give teams their identity beyond just their name, and having logos for that is incredible. And I have access to all the teams' private rooms on the server, and I've got to give a shout out to the Three-Eyed Roosters, who are our French team, who have put some incredible work into their logo. I'm really excited to see which one they actually choose. There's Redley up on screen now.
That was our initial designs.
This is our work in progress logo.
I love it. Because I love Renly. But the Three-Eyed Roosters have got a really good logo coming on. The Lightning Lords are putting together a good one as well. Who else? The Knights of Summer have got a really good concept for theirs that made me laugh a lot the first time I saw it. But yeah, it's like it's all part of it. You know what I mean? What's been really nice is obviously following the Discord, which has been up for less than a week now. Like we announced this less than a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
What's been really nice is seeing teams taking advantage of those private rooms and like they're sorting out training regimens, and they're like, you know, what are we going to do? We're all going to help each other out here, and that's been the best part of it for me, is seeing teams come together in that way.
I mean, for me, I think one of the most important things off the back of this is I hope it brings the community together even more, because we already know the community's quite good, and Carlo can probably reveal a bit of a secret bit of information about how people have found their opponents from the first Builder League.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but generally speaking, the community is very good, and I think a lot of people in the community appreciate a lot of work that other people in the community do. I think it's very tight. So I think this tournament is going to improve on that massively, and I think there's going to be I know I'm going to try and show up and watch my teammates play their games, and probably have banter with the other people watching from the other teams, hopefully, and aspects like that.
Well, this was something I wanted to mention, actually. One of the things I'd really like to do is to encourage new content creators as well to come and get involved in this. So if you're out there and you're watching this on repeat after it's been out live, and you're interested in doing if you're already content creating or you're interested in getting into it, come and talk to me, because I want to get as many of these games covered as possible. Ideally, I'd like us to find a way to be covering 4 or 5 matches a week. 2 from one league, 2 from another, and then ideally the wild card. And obviously I know I can count on you guys in Northern Realms for that. And I know Carl from West Coast Bannerman, who is in a team himself. He has a West Coast Bannerman team. I know he's starting streaming again recently. I got contacted on Discord today by another person who's planning on it.
Awesome.
So the more people, and obviously I'll be streaming some out as well, because I'm not playing it. I'll be trying to stream 1 or 2 a week myself. And just really hyping it up, you know what I mean? Getting it out there as a big event that everyone can get involved with.
It's a bit off topic, but I really think that the board game community, or like the tabletop community, is practically on the verge of like the esports revolution. Some people might not like that. I know not everybody likes to have technology in their games. Some people will never play on TTS. Some people don't like this meeting of these two kind of worlds. But I think a ton of people who play war games are also into esports in general.
Yeah, couldn't agree
play
more.
computer games, and they're very aware of the viewership, that they can go and see other people play and enjoy it, and that they don't have to play themselves to get pleasure out of the game. And I think that through TTS and other things, and if anything, that's actually kind of where A Song of Ice and Fire Stats comes from, which is these kind of statistics. Like, you know, I'm not creating something entirely unique. Like, I'm not some kind of mathematical genius. What I'm doing is I'm bringing these things that exist in video games, in esports, and are very, very popular and very, very well used there, and I'm bringing them to board games, because I think that we're about to see, personally, I think that in the next decade, we're going to see board games and esports start to merge or move in that kind of direction. And I think that's brilliant. Like, I think that if it can bring with it, if more people can be reached without them having to stand across a table and play a game with each other, then that's brilliant. And if
I agree.
Song of Ice and Fire Stats can be part of that, then that's even better.
think
one thing I saw. Oh, sorry, Mickey, you go
yeah,
first.
well, I was going to say, I mean, in relink to that, we've seen it with the revolution, if you like, or the resurgence of D&D, with the likes of like Critical Role and things coming about. And you can go on Twitch now and you can watch people live stream their group playing D&D. And
Exactly.
like I have friends on Facebook who I remember who no interest in games that much, and they talk about having D&D night and they look forward to it. And I'm like, what?
I mean, we've got Stranger Things to thank a lot for that. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Because I've been playing D&D for a long time, but I got my partner and loads of my friends into it through Stranger Things. And I started them off with Lord of the Rings, and then we did a Harry Potter one, and now we're doing actual D&D 5th edition, and they love it, and it's great. But one of the things as well, talking about bringing board games and wargaming particularly to an esports thing, is I can't remember where I saw it, and it wasn't that long ago, but was augmented reality gaming tables.
Yeah.
So I think that they could be that. To me, that's when they will fully merge, which is if we can get to a point where you can actually play with models on a table, but actually it's kind of linked to somebody else's table. You don't actually even have to play physically in the same location, but we can both see the table in a physical sense. I think that that's got some crazy potential. But
and also that it does the big thing as well of like, one of the things when you introduce people who are skeptical about war games is, oh well, look, this unit is shooting at that unit, but they can't see it like they can on a computer game.
Yeah.
Well, you augmented reality that stuff, and suddenly you've got catapults filling across the room, and you've got cavalry actually charging and stuff. That
literally.
Yeah.
Be so good.
I know, and that makes our job, right, is the three of us know as people who do commentary on TTS games is that one of the problems with TTS is it's not particularly visually interesting. And can you suddenly imagine having it so that, oh right, I'm going to charge my Lannister cavalry guys into your Stark Outriders, and suddenly that unit charges across the battlefield with effects, and that would be incredible.
It would be. Now we're off topic.
But that'll be a nice way to go.
I saw Craig said in the chat the 3-win max per team is a good idea. Craig, I know that's Bruce on the Lightning Lords. It's great to have him here. And Bruce has been someone who's been really keen on this, and the Lightning Lords are one of the teams that have been really practicing already. And so I did the 3 wins because it's 4 players to a team, and we all know that not everyone is going to be available every week. So rather than having it as there's a maximum of 4 wins or maximum of 4 losses, I suppose there is still a maximum of 4 losses. But the idea being is that you're not going to be, by only counting the highest 3 results. So let's say you win twice and lose twice, then you get 2 wins and 1 loss. You are not adversely penalized by having a team member not available, which can be frustrating with team games, right? Not everyone is always as available as everyone else. In this case, it doesn't matter as much because if your teammate can't play and has to concede, you're not automatically at a disadvantage.
I also like it from a perspective of matchups, because this somewhat goes against the statistical outlier matches that we see. So, for example, if someone draws Free Folk in Fire and Blood and they're up against, I don't know, a Baratheon player, the statistics suggest that the Free Folk are just going to have a really bad time in that game mode. They're going into it as really not the favourites at all. And it means that particular game mode for one team isn't going to completely ruin them. Because if they all play their games, that can be a bit of a recovery game. Like, well, we're probably going to lose that one. But they'll play it and they'll try their hardest to try and win. Yeah. But if they lose it, then it's not a big deal because actually we can try and win the other 3. And that means
and this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to do as well. I wanted it to be the case that undoubtedly almost every team will have Starks. Almost every team will have Free Folk because they're the most played and they're nice. But not every team will have them, and then it doesn't matter as much. You don't have to bring the current odd tier faction to stand a chance because your team, only one person in your team is going to be going up against them. And that could be your loss, and you still get your 3 wins.
As soon as you force 4 different factions, you automatically have a better factional mix than most tournaments. Most tournaments have more than 25% of their entrants being Starks, for example, except outside of the ones that include Kickstarter units when suddenly we see the Lannisters jump right up.
25%.
if only 1 in 4 as a maximum are allowed to play any one given faction, we already see better diversity than we do in individual events.
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to go for. I wanted to be trying something new, something that I thought would get people excited. And some people, in fact, I think it might have been Bruce himself sent me a message saying, like, I really appreciate you doing this because I was getting bored of TTS, as I know a lot of people are. A lot of people are getting tired with TTS because you can end up coming up against the same stuff. This is just a different way of doing it.
There's been a lot of tournaments. There's been a lot of games.
There have been, yeah.
And we could be coming around to a bit of burnout. Do you know what I mean? Like I know that I want to get back and play in physical form so much more than I want to play in TTS. But I think that this is definitely the exciting thing that'll keep everybody interested and engaged. So yeah, perfect timing, perfect, and the community's really on board.
Yeah, I'm glad. Do you guys want to discuss the game modes at all that we chose, or are we saving that for another time?
Go on then. Yeah, definitely.
I can't remember them off the top of my head.
I've got them up here. They're on the Discord server. So I'll kind of talk you through my reasoning with this. We have it's 8 weeks, so it's 8 game modes, 5 of the regular game modes, and 3 of the beta game modes. And obviously, I was kind of inspired by this, partly by the First Builder League. So from the standard game modes, you have Feast for Crows, Dance with Dragons, Fire and Blood, Clash of Kings, Game of Thrones. Now, the reason I went for those, none of those are secret mission card decks, because I know people really don't like them. I'm neither here nor there to judge on that, but that's just the state of things. For most people who don't like them. I wanted to give those because that's a good range. It gives different armies a different chance all the time, right? And then I chose for the beta game modes, I chose Honed and Ready. 1, because it's my favorite of the beta game modes, as we were talking about earlier on. But 2, I think it doesn't reward wolf spam, for example. So that's one way of kind of trying to even out the game modes. Here We Stand is a similar one. It doesn't reward solo units, and that includes the Mountain That Rides, who is included in this tournament because Kickstarters are allowed. Here We Stand encourages people to play in interesting ways. It encourages you to build your list in certain ways. So I wanted to go for that as well. And then finally, Light in Darkness is a secret mission card deck. More player agency. It's far more player agency because you draft the secret mission cards.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was why I wanted to give something that wasn't just going to be, oh well, the Starks are going to win this, the Starks are going to win this, the Starks are going to win this.
I mean, once we get up to like 8 game modes, it becomes when we're playing that many game modes and you've only got 2 lists and you've got a whole range of people that you're going to play into, it forces people to play all-comer lists. It forces people to design new lists in general. So I think that at 8, we could have picked almost anything, right? At 8, we could have picked almost any set of game modes, and it would force variety, and it would force people to play a balanced list. We call them balanced as opposed to like a really extreme list. But no, I think you're right that game modes like Fire and Blood really keep high activations from being just the only dominant way. And I am very interested in some of the new beta game modes that they marginalize the use of solos.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I used Here We Stand, Carlo, is if you remember back to our Black Lives Matter 2 stream, you and Chris Tran played it, and it was a game mode that I chose for you to play simply because of the name theme I thought was appropriate for the session. Yeah. It was a game mode that I really, really liked. I enjoyed commentating on it. I think you guys both enjoyed playing it, and it forced really interesting decisions.
I thought it was a really brilliant game mode. Yeah, it had it made the NCUs have new uses, and every game mode, the beta game modes are pretty good in that they seem to have looked at some of the things that either they already knew or a Song of Ice and Fire stats and kind of some of the tournament rundowns that I've written have kind of pointed out as like, this seems to be a bit of an issue for balance. They seem to have like looked at those same kind of things and decided that, well, we don't have to necessarily, they're not even necessarily balance issues for fighting. What they are is that some factions can just play into game modes so much better than others. And there are ways to just kind of tip the game mode a little bit away from a very specific list, which we see again and again. An example is your use of 0 point attachments or 0 point solos. whether or not they have as big or a big an impact on the game or not. So, I think that the beta game modes are really trying to tackle that. And I can't wait for them to be considered full-blown, full-released game modes and for there to be 12 game modes, 13, whatever the total number is, for us to pick from rather than the current 8.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
think
Agreed.
I think it's just a little aside, George, and it's something we'll talk about afterwards. What with the league changing to 9 teams a league plus the wild card games, so it's going to be 9 games, right?
No. Wait. So what are we saying here? No, because it's 9 teams
So you
in a
play-
round robin format.
So you play 8
So-
teams in your league, and then you play the one across. So there's going to be 9 games in total. Is that right?
Let me just take a look. I did run up a mock draw the other day. So let me just bring it up.
I just thought I might say it because obviously if there are 9 rounds, then we're going to need an extra game mode.
yeah. Let me just take a look. I did do a mock draft the other day.
No, you don't have to worry about it now. You don't have to worry about it now. I just thought it might be a
No,
good
you
one.
are right. There are 9 rounds. What a fucking idiot I am.
Oh,
Brilliant.
Turning YouTube blue. Turning
So-
YouTube blue. Yeah, in that case, there are going to be 9 rounds.
You really put me on the
I will
spot
have
there, Mickey. Like you put me on the spot every single time. How about you tell us about this, Carlo?
So
Wait,
yeah,
what?
there will be 9 weeks, and I see Bruce in the chat already suggesting put Dark Words in there.
DW.
I will think about it. I will take suggestions on board, and I will announce tomorrow what the 9th week will be.
Could it
and
be-
update the tournament info?
Is an interesting one for you, George, and a bit of on the spare thinking. Maybe you don't announce it. Maybe you decide, because I know you're talking about doing like a mid-season break. Maybe it gets voted in and it's a community vote in the mid-season break.
Wow.
That is not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. The problem is, I'm not sure that I'm taking an actual week off for the mid-season break. The mid-season break, the idea of that being is that it's going to be a point.
When are we supposed to get our mid-season team transfers done then?
I need to sub out.
I'm well. Once the memes have been made, once the image has been made, I'm pretty sure we're trading Mickey out for anybody we can.
As long as they play Renly. As long as they play Renly, it's fine.
Yeah, he's here for meme purposes only. Like when do we get to trade on them?
Well, yeah, I think I will look. I'm going to look into it. Thank you for pointing that out, Mickey. Because despite the fact that I have a mock draft in front of me, I just assumed it was 8 weeks. But you're right. Of course, it's 9.
It's all right. Don't think about it now.
I will look into it. Yeah, we'll sort something out.
Yeah.
But no, that's good stuff. I think that's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to playing with some of my teammates as well. I know that my team is going to be great fun to just play with and talk to a lot, except Carlo. And I think a lot of the other teams out there are going to just enjoy themselves.
We already spend way too much time talking to each other.
Far too much time. Like you said, that it's a one-way thing. You talk to me a lot because I listen to your videos. Anyway, yeah, so tournaments-wise, that's pretty much leads us to the end of tournaments there. There is one, though, that I wanted to mention. This Valar Brussels Walls / Winter League, I believe, is a Belgian tournament that's going to be physical, and it's way off the start date. It's going to be September. So if you are from Belgium, look into that one. It's a little tournament there, 12-player tournament. But, Carlo, this is an interesting.
You know what you're talking about.
This is an interesting one, isn't it? I've never heard of this thing. Adepticon 2021.
Adepticon 2021. There we go. People. I mean, these massive events, and Adepticon is, of course, an absolutely huge event. These massive events take planning, particularly at a time like now with COVID. So it's great to see that it's in the works and that they're presumably.
Yeah.
I haven't actually spoken to the tournament organizer. Presumably intending to run it through a Song of Ice and Fire Stats, which would be great.
That's a big vote of confidence, I think, in the site as well. That's really good. Like a tournament of that size in person, an event of that scale to be held on the site is a big vote of confidence.
Yep,
definitely.
I hope so. And like if you remember, for those who were with us, if you remember what the site was like 3 months ago, we can only imagine what it'll be like in another 9 months. So hopefully it'll even run a good tournament by then. Hopefully it'll be absolutely smooth sailing, and everybody will be involved by then. I would like everybody who plays a Song of Ice and Fire Stats to come to the site. I would like everybody to see value in what the site tries to give them, and tournaments are just one way that we do that. But Adepticon is a big deal, and I really hope it's going to be a big, great event. And I probably better start looking at booking a ticket to get there.
Give me my ability to pre-do rounds, damn it.
All right. Give me 3 months. Like I say, that's where we are. Every day, I spend about 10 hours coding on the website. So,
no, you
there's
don't.
something very big, hopefully coming in 1 or 2 days, which maybe you'll realize why I haven't put any updates up for a few weeks. You know what? I might as well just tell you. I have
big
built,
reveal.
Yeah, we're actually gonna say it.
Drop the bomb.
Loud.
Drop the bomb.
Yeah, because I'm that close to finishing. I'm gonna commit to it. I have, and I'm gonna lay out this challenge.
Have you got a link for the developer version? You can send me.
No. Oh, to you?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, other people can't. I think I already sent you one.
Find it.
When this goes live, probably Wednesday, maybe Thursday, I have built an unbreakable. Can you believe he's going to commit to it? An unbreakable builder. That is to say, you cannot build an army list that is not legal. You cannot add a unit that's not legal. You cannot have anything. So unlike the other builders that exist out there, which just say, oh, by the way, this doesn't work, you're not allowed to do that. This denies you from ever building lists that aren't allowed. Why is it done that way? It's done that way so that when we integrate it fully into the tournaments that we run, you as a TO can know with absolute certainty that all the lists entered into your tournament are legal without you having to interfere. You don't have to check. You can click. You can say, am I allowing Kickstarter exclusives? Yes, no. Am I allowing unreleased stuff? Yes, no. All of those things are built in, and it will not let you build a list that does not conform to the tournament guidelines. And once we have that, it will make the TO's life so much easier.
Thank God you're doing this now before this. I have 18 teams, 74 lists to have to go through. I'm very grateful for that.
That's the plan.
I don't know whether or not we'll be able to integrate it in fast enough. The builder is unbreakable.
The builder is unbreakable. The site isn't, right?
Yes, exactly. The link to the tournaments isn't built yet. That's what. So first of all, it's going to get released, and I'm going to challenge people to try and break the builder. I will, as quickly as possible, try and integrate them in together. But yeah, hopefully people will come along. I also spent a lot of time, got a lot of help from the people who do things that look much better than the things that I usually make. So hopefully it even looks nice.
I would also, just seeing as we're sharing news, I would also just like to point out, just on a personal note, that I am now ranked 14th, I think, out of the whole GTS list. Yeah, 14th with a ranking of 1606.
Me and you need a game, George.
Yeah, we do.
Hang on.
Hopefully it goes like the
hang on, it doesn't matter.
Like the Master's Chain one did.
It's irrelevant. It's online stats. No one cares about online stats.
To be fair, I've still never played an in-person game because I started after lockdown started.
I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive stuff. It's impressive.
I finally, after a bad first lot of games, I finally hit a positive win streak, and I'm now positive overall and with all the 4 factions I've played. So I'm very happy about that.
And that's the way the ELO works, which is it's representative of what your current trajectory is. It's nothing to do with your past history in any real sense. When I was testing it in small sections of data with my own local group, I often ended up bottom of the rankings before I ever recovered because I just lost my first few games, and then you bounce back very, very quickly. If you give it new data, it will always kind of rectify itself. So
yeah, I've been taking your advice as well, your ELO kind of hack advice, and playing lower ranked factions. Like I played Targaryens and got a win over Baratheons with those. I played Night's Watch, got a win over Free Folk with those.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, there's the game in the system, man.
Yeah, it's not gaming the system, it's helping to correct the system. If those factions were actually bad, you wouldn't have won those games. So you're helping to correct the factional ELOs by showing actually that faction is kind of underrepresented right now.
That's what I'm here for. So I won my Night's Watch. I'm kind of envisaging as my second faction until Targaryens get better, and I won my first Night's Watch game. I was very happy with that.
There you go. You really
close
not
one,
give yourself any kind of challenge there with two of the lowest ranked factions right now, and two of the factions that are generally not appearing on the top table of any tournament. So, but
Yeah.
that's brilliant. So yeah. Anyway, that will hopefully come up really soon, and yeah, and then we'll get back to building more stuff for tournaments, getting back to making the tournament process easier for everybody, and hopefully I'll be able to do it fast enough for George to be able to get his team World Cup all in good order. Remind me, so TTS, Kickstarter exclusives are allowed?
They are allowed. Everything is allowed except the unreleased units that say subject to change are not allowed.
Subject to change is not. Yeah, there we
Subject
go.
to change is not allowed.
Which I'm sure we'll get a glut of next Friday as well.
I'm hoping the reason I decided to set the lists after Friday after Gen Con is because I'm really hoping that people get the opportunity. I hope that, for example, if Targaryen the Unsullied Pikemen are actually properly spoiled, which I think there's a decent chance of, that's going to really help Targaryen players. It's going to encourage more of them to play. I'm hoping we see something like that. And no doubt we will see other kind of subject to change ones, but we might get some finished spoilers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a bit of dampening on the hype for Gen Con. I don't think we're gonna see as much as people think.
Possible.
Because I think there's we've already had quite a few spoilers out there, and I think they don't want to release much more information at the moment, probably not knowing when delivery of items is going to be coming through. Because I think they obviously know about TTS. They'll know that it will impact the TTS game, and I think that's going to be partially around why they will or won't release information. I think if they're happy with people using TTS at the moment, they'll do it. If they if they aren't happy with the use of TTS, I think they'll deliberately keep some information back. So we'll probably see more things spoiled, but we won't get the full spoilers, which will be a big shame.
For example, we might see more cards where we see their rules but not their points cost, because
I think that's going to be the case. Sorry, I think that's definitely going to be the case with the Greyjoys. I don't imagine we'll see fixed points cost for Greyjoys, but I think for the units we've kind of already got a sense of, like the Unsullied Pikemen, maybe like the Kings and Queens men for the Stannis side Baratheons, maybe some Renly side stuff as well. That's the kind of stuff if we see anything actually finished, it will be those ones.
We already know the Pikemen's cost, don't we? Anyway, pretty much they said it live there that it's going to be like 8, 9, 10.
Exactly. That's three different points.
Completely agree. But
they're only amazing, playable, or unplayable as our three different variants.
No, I heard they're 3 points, right?
Targaryen Hakars, they're only either 3 points, 4 points, or 5 points, i.e., too good, kind of maybe balanced but still spammed, or too expensive, as basically everybody seems to be kind of claiming those three different points costs would be. There is a question, which is, I assume Daryl, Northern Realms, has asked, will there be an Exporter 2? That is going to follow up really soon afterwards. Basically, I would like to make it a much smoother process. Currently, it's actually a very, very rough process, and I don't think it's very good for the users to have to download a file, save it to a very specific folder, and then upload it again into TTS. So I'm working with the creator of the mod to make something much better.
Right then. I think that pretty much ends the conversation here, doesn't it? I think George has gone to look after his dog, do dog-related duties. But yeah, I think we'll end the conversation here. So, was there any last-minute thoughts? Anything you want to talk about, Carlo? Really? Last minute.
No, better get finishing that builder now that I've committed to it coming out in about the next 48 hours. So
big release. That's probably the biggest news we've had today. I've known about it for ages, but you're rubbish. It was meant. As an aside, to all of you watching live, this was meant to be released last Monday.
Oh, whoa, okay, but
That's what you told me.
Things,
You literally told me.
Yeah. I added new things since then. It's much better than it was.
How do I know? It's not released. How can it be better if it was rubbish, non-existent? God. Anyway,
Hey.
There
are other builders out there. I actually you believe that there's about to be quite a few more builders about to appear. I've seen others are in the works. So I don't want to just release something that isn't very good.
Okay then. So we'll leave that there, and we will see all of you brilliant people who tune in live next week. And for you watching, the guys watching on repeat, go and check out the other videos. We've got the Bring the Commander Spotlight that came out today, actually, on Monday. The Commander Spotlight series. We've got more stuff coming up. We'll have a Song of Ice and Fire stats chat later on in the week. Yep, he's committing to it. Good.
Yep.
And
Commander Spotlight, stats chat.
Yep. And we'll catch you next Monday.
Next week, we should be able to be talking about Laughter is Poison to Fear, right?
Hopefully.
Have happened.
Hopefully, yeah. We'll know what's happening with Brett's tournament.
The indie event. Yeah.
So, guys,
talk about. See you then.
We'll catch you next week. Check out the YouTube. Check out the Facebook group of Song of Ice and Fire stats. And between now and then, catch you later.